Great. Now I'm going to share my screen with everyone. So please be ready. Right. Welcome to the Community Action South Harrow meeting. Our vision is to make sure that we have a South Harrow that's a cleaner, safer, and a fairer place to live and work. This vision we came up with together in our very first Community Action South Harrow meeting, now 2.5 years ago. So we hope that this vision is what we can start with at every meeting, and we can remember that this is what we're working towards. For those that don't know, my name is Peymana Assad. I'm the councillor in Roxeth, and I chair the Community Action South Harrow group. And so thank you all for being here today. I'm just going to quickly remind you guys who your South Harrow councillors are. I do this at every meeting, so for those of you, this might be a repeat, but for people who are new, who haven't been to our meetings before, these are your South Harrow councillors. The South Harrow councillors consist of Roxeth, Roxbourne and Tara on the Hill. So there's me in the red dress. I'm wearing the same red dress today as well, because, you know, feeling summery. On the left, so my left that you're looking at, you've got Councillor Sarah Butterworth, then it's Maxine Henson, Honey Jamie, me, Dean Gilligan. Above that on the right, Dan Anderson, Pramesh Patel, Graham Henson, who's the leader of the council, and Councillor Jerry Miles, who's the chair of TARSAP. So we've got some great councillors here, and you can contact them all, finding their contact details online on the Harrow Council website. So just a reminder, this is what Team South Harrow is, and this is what it compromises of the Community Action South Harrow group. So the plan for this evening is as follows. So introductions and welcomes, which I've just done. We're going to have a little quick update on the COVID-19 situation in South Harrow from Carole Furlong. And then we're just going to have a quick Q&A in regards to what's happening with COVID-19 in the south of the borough. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the murals, which last time we met virtually, I promised everyone in the community that we would have a meeting before any consultations on designs were put forward. So I'll run through a little bit of the history of how we've got to where we've got to with the murals. And then I'll show you guys some designs for murals. And then we'll talk about the High Street Fund. And then we'll talk about the consultation that's going to come out in South Harrow in regards to the mural designs, but also the High Street Fund proposals. And then we'll have a quick Q&A if anybody has any questions, and then I'll talk a little bit about our next steps and what we're planning to do next. So most of you, the councillors, will be present here in the meeting, but I'll be chairing the meeting. So we'll move swiftly on to our COVID-19 update from Carole. So I'm going to hand over to Carole. Carole, do you need me to stop sharing my presentation?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So I will stop sharing and
I will start.
Great, perfect.
There you go. So this is our dashboard, which if anybody's been in a meeting with me before, I update this on a daily basis, and it just shows us where we are with some quick visuals. So our incidence rate over here is 38.2, and that's the lowest that it's been since about October last year, which is great. And for people over 60, it's 22.4, which is up slightly on last week, but I'm expecting that to come down again. We're doing really well on our test and trace. So we managed to get through to 89.4% of people who are positive, and of the contacts that we identify, 96.2% of those respond. Our testing rate is quite high because we're doing surge testing, which I'll talk to you in a moment about, and our positivity rate is nice and low. If that's below 4%, that means that we're quite in control. So this just shows you where we've been and where we are at the moment for our rates. And this number here, this 77, because That's the interim data, so it might go up a little bit, but it's lower than the confirmed number that we've had. So I'm expecting the numbers to continue to go down. But you can see that in the over 60s, although our rate's gone up, we've still only had 12 cases in people over 60 in the last 7 days, which is really good news, and is mainly down to the vaccine. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that I can look at you and see everybody. So I just wanted to, because I'm sure that there's some concerns about the surge testing that we're doing in South Harrow. So we identified what happens is that every positive test that's done through a PCR, so that's the one that you have at the, for example, the site in South Harrow on North Holt Road. All of those tests are sent to a laboratory, and then a sample of those is sent on to another laboratory. It used to be around about 5%, but as the rates have been getting lower, they've been sampling a lot more. So around about 30% of Harrow's tests are all sent for genomic sampling. And that will tell us what variety of virus that we've got. And one of these turned out to be the South African virus. So we talked to the case, and we found no travel history, no relevant travel history. Nobody else in the family had travelled. They hadn't been in contact with anybody who had travelled. And so what we had to then look at was, well, where did they get it from? And it wasn't clear, where we couldn't link it with any other case. So we decided that we would have to do some surge testing. And this is mainly to see if we've got any other cases in the area that are a South Africa variant. So we're aiming to test somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 people in South Harrow. And of those people, we're asking all the adults to do, anybody over 16 basically, to do some testing. All of the samples will be sent to the laboratory for genomic sampling, and as will anybody who goes to the symptomatic centres for testing as well. So we've done this twice before. We've done it once in Headstone North and Hatch End, and then we did it in Wealdstone and Harrow Weald the week after that, and then at the moment it's in South Harrow. I'm really pleased to say that at the moment we haven't found any additional cases of South Africa variant, and that is pretty similar to other areas that have also done this sort of exercise. So hopefully when we finish the testing by the end of the week, we still won't have found any, and we can all just go back to our normal regular testing. The government announced today that the lateral flow testing, which has been available for people through businesses, and if you are the parent or guardian of a child at school, is now going to be open to everybody. And so we have 2 collection points at the moment in Harrow, which is 3 collection points, which is the 3 testing centres. So in the morning they'll do testing, they close down for an hour while they have a thorough clean, and then they become distribution centres for the lateral flow testing kits that you can do at home. You can pick up 2 boxes of 7 kits, which will last you for 7 weeks. And so that's at North Holt Road, at Harrow, Harrow Weald at Box Tree Park, and at Harrow Rec Kenton Rec rather. So we're going to be opening 2 other sites, which is the site at Harrow Arts Centre. We'll also be distributing them, and the building 5 and 6 at Civic Centre will also be able to distribute them. We're waiting for our supplies, and we expect that to happen sort of at the end of next week or the beginning of the week after. Yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Carole. So just to start us off, in terms of the surge testing that's happening, the door-to-door testing that's happening in South Harrow, there's nothing of concern at the moment for the community. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, what we are picking up is we're picking up some people, as expected, who are asymptomatic and are turning out to be positive, but none of those have turned out to be the South Africa variant so far.
Okay, great.
I'm keeping everything crossed.
Okay, fingers crossed. We have some time for some questions. Clive, I see you've got your hand up. If you just want to come off mute and quickly ask your question.
Thank you. Yes, I just wondered how you managed to choose which roads to test. We're a bit puzzled, those of us who live in Brook Avenue, that the roads opposite us in Northolt Road and next to us, as it were, the other side of the bridge are all in the surge area, and we're not.
We needed to identify enough properties to do around about 5,000 tests or offer 5,000 tests. I started off by identifying an area which was about 9,000 households, which would be far too many. And so we just cut it down around the case and where the case had been shopping, which was in some shops in South Harrow. So that was our rationale for doing the testing. Around the edges, we're not expecting them to have much contact with the case, but it's just the way that they like us to do it. They like us to put a limit on it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Marie Jo, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Carole. Just regarding the LFT kits, yeah. I know, I mean, you did say there are 3 points of collection. Yeah. How does that work? Because, I mean, I know some people are not quite encouraged to go out and get it. How do they know it's happening at these 3 points? How have you been able to let them know, advertise?
We can let people. We have put out some communications about this, but there's also a website that you can go on, which I'll send around with Sadish with the notes of the meeting, and that will tell you where your nearest site is, whether it's open or closed, and what the waiting time is for it. It's quite useful. It will tell you if you've got to wait for half an hour in a queue or whether it's less than 15 minutes. Most of them, and most of the time, it's less than 5 minutes for you to actually get the tests.
Okay. Yeah, and also, I mean, quickly, my daughter goes, because my daughter goes to school, but she goes to school in Hillingdon, and we live in South Harrow. So do I still qualify to go and get it, or shall I?
Yeah, you can go anywhere. You can pick them up from wherever is convenient for you.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I don't see any other hands up or any other questions. I hope that's clarified the surge testing issue in South Harrow. What we'll do is we'll send on more information in the email after. Sudesh has put in the cash@harrow.gov.uk email address. That's the email address that we communicate with everyone in the community through this group. So if you want to be signed up to our email list, just email that with your name and your address to make sure that you actually do live in South Harrow, because we want residents who actually live in South Harrow accessing this information. I don't see anything else, any other questions, Carole, so thank you very much for your time and for being with us. Now you can go and have a very nice evening, the rest of your evening.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right, so I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to move on to the next. Oh, let me just quickly do this. Right. So the last time, a long time ago, now I can't even remember when, we met in person. This was before COVID, and we broke out into breakout groups, and we asked you guys what it is that you wanted to see in the community. Now, obviously there were three areas, main areas that you guys talked about. One was sort of sense of community, environment, identity, that sort of stuff. And in this sense of community, one of the things that the community talked about is having a mural or having something that was visual that could bring an identity to South Harrow. Something that could show the community, you know, get people to stop and take photos, maybe show the history of South Harrow too, amongst various other things. Now, what we've been able to do is work on the mural during this time. Now, it's been quite a long process in the works, and because of COVID-19, we were kind of sort of put on hold because of all the emergency related situation happening and the services that the officers needed to focus on. We will be working on each of these issues separately. Some of them have been ongoing at the moment. For example, the Grange Farm. So we had updates on Grange Farm at these community meetings, and we will have further updates in future meetings. But the one that I want to focus on today is the murals, because last time we met, a lot of people were asking me what's happened to the South Harrow murals, because you've seen murals go up in Rayners Lane and Wealdstone. And so this meeting really is about that. And so in that meeting where we discussed, so we had another community meeting after that. And again, we broke out into breakout groups, and we asked you guys to come up with some themes. So what are the kind of themes you wanted to see of these murals? And these are the kinds of things that were raised, you know, bringing a sense of community, happiness, showing the history of South Harrow, the people of South Harrow, community and place, honoring key workers, you know, celebrating the NHS, young people, having something vibrant, making sure that people could stop and take a photo of, all of that kind of stuff. And so this is what we took away. And we gave that to some artists that were commissioned, the same artists that were commissioned to do the murals in Rayners Lane and Wealdstone. We gave them those themes to work from, to provide some draft design options of a mural in South Harrow. The other thing we also did is we asked you guys at that meeting where the best place would be for a mural. And the biggest site or area that was given to us was the bridge. Now, by the bridge, I mean, once you come out of South Harrow Tube Station, you see the wall and the bridge, and making that area look nicer and having a mural there maybe. So that's what we put to the artists to come up with some designs. So now we'd like to share 6 designs with you that have come back to us from the artists, which will form part of a consultation. So this consultation will be launched after this community meeting, so at the end of this week, hopefully, to everyone in South Harrow, who will have an opportunity to actually rate which designs they like the best. And so the first design is this one, based on the themes. This is a design in regards to, you know, being colourful, showing the name of South Harrow on the bridge. This is kind of what it would look like. So this is the wall under the bridge once you come out of the station. You see you've got 2 hands there with a heart and the vibrant and colourful sort of shapes. I will ask Shazad later to come in and give some more information on. This is the next design. This is design 2. And this is about, you know, remembering the loved ones that we lost to COVID-19 and the fact that we're all getting through this together. So you see that the top has, you know, to all the key workers, teachers, carers, homeschoolers, volunteers, mask wearers, and those who stayed at home, you know, and remembering them. So that this is the second one. And again, the bridge would look quite similar to the last design. Then we have this third design, which looks at South Harrow superheroes, we thank you. And this is what the bridge would look like. So the bridge would be green with a South Harrow name at the top, like that. So this is the third design. The fourth design is this one. Again, bright colors, orange, South Harrow name on the mural, and dedicated to frontline staff and key workers of South Harrow. This again uses the South Harrow name, but in a different way on the bridge. Design 5 is this rainbow design. The people are not part of the mural. I know they're just, you know, part of the photo to make it look realistic of how it would look if someone was walking past it. But this has a bit of history, you know, the history aspect and the of South Harrow. So, you know, used previous photos and putting that on the wall. So what South Harrow used to look like, some parts of South Harrow from back in the day. As you can see, you've got you know, the old style clothing as well can be seen with the birds and stuff, with the rainbow design coming out onto the bridge, the big bridge you can see here. You see South Harrow again, we are South Harrow on the bridge. So this is the rainbow design, this is design 5, and then we've got the final design, which is design 6. And this is sort of, you know, various different photos, some of people, some of the train, you know, cars, you know, with that kind of blue welcome to South Harrow, we are South Harrow marker on the actual bridge. So these are the 6 designs. They all have, you know, specific details behind each of them, the reasons why the artist decided to have those specific designs and not something else. And the shapes and, you know, the way that they've drawn things is all kind of related to the communities in South Harrow. So it all has reasons, and those reasons will be explained in the online consultation in more depth. I just wanted to make sure that you guys saw the designs here at the community meeting before we actually had the consultation up. So the consultation will be out on the 9th of April, hopefully. The only issue is that the bridge, this TfL bridge, we've conducted sort of site visits. So our officers have gone out with TfL and conducted site visits. And they've recently highlighted to us that they actually want to carry out improvement works on the South Harrow Bridge, and that they need to allocate more resources and program works to that before we can actually put any kind of mural design on it. So we need to wait and hear back from them on what the timeframes for that look like. But also, once you guys vote on which design you like the best through the consultation, what we'll do is that will be part of a planning approval process. So it has to be approved by the planning committee at the council before that design can actually even go on that wall and the bridge. And this is outside of even considering what TfL is planning to do and to improve it. We'll keep you updated on the progress through these meetings, through these community meetings. But the main thing is making sure that you vote for your favorite design. And if you don't like any of the designs, we'd still like to hear, you know, what you're thinking and what you think, what kind of designs we should possibly have. So before we go on to the High Street Fund, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and remove my pin so we can look at gallery view. What I'm just going to ask is if anybody has any questions in regards to the mural specifically. Now, I know it's been a long time coming, but the fact that we're at this stage right now is a big thing, because we've been working towards it for a very long time. So Carole Palmer, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. This is my first meeting. I didn't know these meetings were taking place, so I'm excited to be here. I have heard about the mural. I just want to know who's funding it and how long is it proposed that the mural will be up for, and if it's a long time, who's going to maintain it and how is that funded as well?
Okay, Thank you very much for your question. So we have a specific fund that was set aside for the 3 town centres. I'll bring Shehzad into this as well to help me answer this question, but we had some funding set aside a year and a bit ago for 3 town centres, so including South Harrow, Wealdstone, and West Harrow, I believe, which includes Rayners Lane. And some of that funding, 30K, I believe it was set aside for South Harrow, for a mural or a few murals in South Harrow. And so the project is funded by Harrow Council, and therefore we will be hopefully maintaining it. And the mural is supposed to be there forever. So it's something that's supposed to be a sense of identity, something that we'll have there with us all the time and we'll be able to look at all the time. Now, Shehzad, you can provide more clarity in terms of the maintenance aspect of it, because I know the artists that will put it up will also have made sure that it doesn't wear out or start looking bad after a few years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Shehzad Ahmed. I'm part of Harrow Council's Economic Development team. And in regards to the question, in regards to the maintenance of it, absolutely correct that the murals have been designed to be maintenance-free. Obviously, nothing's maintenance-free for forever, right? For life. But we've looked at this and we're designing it in such a way in partnership with TfL, given the whole structure and so on and so forth, that there'll be a minimal need for maintenance for the first 10 years. And then after that, we envisage that it may need an element of top up, perhaps, maybe or maybe not. But it's something that with all capital projects, we need to review in 10 years' time to see how it is and what state it is at, and maybe perhaps have a little bit of a top up. So it's a bit similar to any other capital project or any other structure that it needs an element of review after a number of years.
Okay, thank you very much, Shehzad. Clive, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, you say it's going to be funded and maintained by Harrow Council, but really it's going to be funded and maintained by the council taxpayer, isn't it? So, I mean, it does seem to me that one thing you need to establish is whether South Harrow's council taxpayers actually want their money spent on this sort of thing. And, the fact that there's enthusiasm from a small group like this, it's obviously a starting point, but you need to test that out with the wider community. And I certainly think when it comes to the consultation, you need to give people an opportunity to vote for or against each one rather than saying what's their favourite, because it may well be that none of them is favoured by a majority. My third point was that, I mean, some of them, that celebrate, the way people have coped with the pandemic, obviously very topical, seem quite attractive, but it's soon going to hopefully cease to be topical. And if it's supposed to be there forever, one wonders about because you can see that it could generate enthusiasm because it's topical, but actually it's not going to last.
Yeah, thank you very much, Clive, for that. So what happened in terms of why we actually came up with this idea in terms of the mural itself was that we had a consultation for the whole community, for the entire community in South Harrow, in regards to what they'd like to see, what kind of changes, what economic development changes would they like to see. And part of that was an identity part, an art part, a cultural aspect, and from that, we had lots of different ideas come through. One of them was the mural. So the idea of the mural isn't something that councillors or council officers have suddenly randomly come up with. It's something that was fed back to us by the community through that wider consultation that we put out a year and a bit ago, which had positive responses from everyone. And then what we made sure to do as councillors is test that idea out again in these community action groups, these community South Harrow action meetings. We've sent out this invitation to everyone. We've placed advertisements in shop windows, in the library. We've even delivered leaflets in regards to these meetings, and we've had lots of people from the community attend. So I think it has support, but this is your opportunity to actually vote on the designs. And so in answer to your second question, and Shazad, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the consultation, you'll have an opportunity to feedback in terms of whether you like any of the designs or you don't, or you have any other further comments. Is that correct? Yes, Shazad?
Absolutely. So it's an ongoing process. As Councillor has highlighted, we've carried out a couple of rounds of consultation already. There's this other consultation stage that Councillor Assad's also alluded to as well. And then in addition to that, it's also subject to the planning process as well. And as part of that, there's another statutory consultation process as well. So we've ensured that we've embedded in consultation at various different stages of the project to ensure that it has the community buy-in. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And just to highlight, the pot of funding that's being used by the council for this can only be used for this kind of project. So it can't be used for anything else. You know, it has to, we have to use this money to try and fund, you know, infrastructure or something physical. So it can't be used on other council services. We don't have much time. And so I'm only going to take one more question. Rashmi, do you have a question in regards to the murals? Can you unmute? You're on mute.
Sorry, yes. Thank you. Sorry, it was kind of following up from Clive said, because I did like the ideas. And I know I suggested the key worker-based mural stuff I designed. And now I think, obviously, yes, it was topical at the time. And obviously I didn't really think about, I feel quite naive in the timeline in which it would be taking place. So I, personally, I'll probably not be voting for that one. But there were some really good signs that I will consider. And but when this goes live tonight, how long does it go live for, this consultation? You might have said this.
Sorry, I don't have that information. I think it's a month or no, 2 weeks.
It's on the very last slide, Councillor. So we'll get there. From memory, it's mid-May.
Mid-May.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got some time. You've got some time to feedback on this. In terms of the COVID pandemic mural thing, that was fed back in the community breakout groups. That's why we took that theme to the artists to get them to design it. But if the community doesn't like it, then we don't need to have that kind of mural up. You know, it's really down to the community. So making sure that you have told your family and your friends, all of them, to vote for. Or to say which ones they like and which ones they don't like. Right, so we've got to move on because we've got lots to cover. The next thing that we'll be talking about is the High Street Fund. Now, the High Street Fund is a new, exciting project that's coming to South Harrow. And I'm not going to try and talk about this because I probably won't do it justice. But there's lots of different things proposed in this High Street Fund. It's specifically set around doing creative things, but also public realm related stuff. And councillors have been very involved in putting forward some ideas for this. So what you hear today, we've kind of already fed back on as your elected reps in South Harrow. And we hope that this is just as exciting to you as it is for us. And it's an opportunity for us to really look at and shape South Harrow in a completely different way. And it will look much better, I believe. We've done a lot of these changes already. For example, widening the pavement, as you guys have seen. From the tube station, as you walk down North Holt Road, you've seen the improvements that we've done. We did the bringing in the Christmas lights. So that's, you know, something that didn't happen for 30 years, and the community wanted Christmas lights down North Holt Road, and we did that. We were able to achieve that as part of one of the asks that came out of this group. So we are working towards these. The mural is one. And now the High Street Fund are some of the other ideas that we're looking to implement to change the look of South Harrow. So I'm going to hand it over to Shazad now, who is the brains behind some of this. And so I'll let him talk us through it.
Superb, great. Thank you very much, Councillor Assad. So the Harrow High Street Fund, what is it? So it's a programme, and essentially we're targeting 4 district centres. In addition to South Harrow, we're also targeting Edgware, North Harrow and Reynolds Lane. And essentially, we'll be delivering 2 projects in each of those 4 district centres. The first project is what I'm referring to as creative placemaking. Bear with me, the jargon, I'll go on to explain exactly what that means in a couple of slides' time. But essentially, this creative placemaking, what it seeks to do is improve and give the area a bit of identity through some cultural elements. So that involves us working with architects, graphic designers, and artists. And that project will be project managed by the team that I work for, the economic development team. The second project, also delivered in all of those 4 areas, is what we're referring to as the public realm project. And that includes improvements to the cycle networks, it includes improvements to the footways, it also includes decluttering, and it also includes an element of improving the green aspects such as trees as well. And that will be progressed by the council's highways team. And together, both project strands, we're seeking to deliver a seamless, improved town centre. So on this slide over here, there's a number of different interventions that form part of the creative placemaking project. They include more murals. It also includes a lighting scheme and painting lamp columns. And afterwards, I'll go on to speak about in more detail and also show some images what each of these refer to. In addition, we've also got bespoke place shaping markers, infographics along cycle routes, along footways, colourful artistic crossings, and arts display units as well. Next page, please, Councillor Assad. So, and here we have it, the definition according to a couple of gurus in the sense of what creative placemaking is. So it animates public and private spaces, it rejuvenates structures and streetscapes, it improves local business viability and public safety, and it brings diverse people together to celebrate, inspire, and be inspired. So in a nutshell, we're really focusing on the actual physical aspect of the district centre itself and highlighting the special places in a creative and cultural way to have some vibrancy, fun, and uplift to the area and give it a stronger identity as well. So in regards to murals, we've delivered 5 murals in the area already, and I'll go on to show in the next slide some photographs of what they currently look like. In South Harrow, we've identified 10 sites where we think that they can be located, and we've already made contact with those freeholders, and we're working through reaching agreements in principle. Some will agree what we're expecting, others not to, but that's fine because we've identified more sites than what we would like to display murals. But we'll continue to review other sites in an agile way as well. So on the next slide are photographs of what those murals look like that we've already delivered. Top left is Wheelstone Square, and that's playing on the wood and the stone. Top right is also Wheelstone, it's adjacent to the station, and the artist is actually here with us today as well. And there's a welcome to Wheelstone, and it's playing on the diversity, and there's also landmarks, landmark buildings included within that mural as well. Bottom left is done by an artist who was previously at our Wi-Fi studios in Wheelstone, and the bottom right is naturally Rayners Lane. In addition to that, there's a new one that's recently been done a couple of weeks ago, also in Rayners Lane as well. Next slide, please. So here we have a lighting scheme. So this is something that we think adds an element of vibrancy and an element of colour as well within the town centre, and it can be done either through uplighting buildings. So the top left is the Zoroastrian Centre that was uplit as part of the census, raising awareness. And the top right is Canary Wharf last Christmas, in addition to the top middle as well. Bottom right is Southall. Previously, that's a project I worked on, and the bottom left is Rayners Lane. The top right and the bottom right, that's the same material, it's just done in different colours. So it almost gives an indication in the sense of how working creatively, it can add different flair and different exposures of colour within an area.
Just to remind everyone, this is basically the Christmas lights that we put up for along North Holt Road. So the lighting scheme, that kind of thing. The Christmas lights is what. So visualize the Christmas lights on North Holt Road, but think about it in other areas. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that's a very good example, because that bottom left image, it's the same lights along outside the station. Absolutely. Okay, over here, this is a high impact scheme, painting the lamp columns. And it's just shown how it can be done in a variety of different ways. So either a number of different colors, or the one in the middle is one color providing that brand and that coherent look. And the image on the left is a live project that I'm currently working on in Harrow Town Centre. And what Painting the Lamp Columns allows us to do, it's almost focus on the whole of Norfolk Road. The challenge that we've got is that it's a long linear road. It starts with shops and then it stops and then starts again. But with this particular intervention, we've got the opportunity to go all the way from the South Harrow Police Station all the way down to the Asda and provide it with that identity, while we focus with some more core interventions at key areas. Thank you. Next slide. And this is an example of a intervention that we can have at a key area. So this is what we're referring to as a bespoke place shaping marker, and it's essentially something that we can do at a gateway area. So somewhere where there's high visibility, high footfall, and having a marker of some sort or another. So the top right is something that we've delivered in Stanmore, and the bottom right is something that we've also delivered along Station Road, also in Harrow. And then there's other examples of how it can be done in a fun way as well. Next slide, please. And then what we have is a series of infographics, either along the cycle route or along the footway. So this is just really highlighting the cycle routes in the sense of that push towards more cycling, and it forms part of that identity as well. In addition to the next slide, that shows us infographics along the footway. So the top left is an example of how there can be an element of wayfinding, pointing towards certain buildings or other directions. Bottom left is just playing with color. And the bottom right is that same example in terms of Station Road and how it can be pieced together along next to the cycle route, but on the footway itself. Next slide, please. And here we have colourful artistic crossings. And this is something that we'll be seeking to work with our graphic designer to produce the designs for the colourful crossings, in addition to the infographics along the footway and the cycle route, to ensure that we've got that coherent look, whilst the murals will be produced by a number of different artists. Next slide, please. Arts display unit. So this is something that can complement the static nature of the murals. It's something that's almost a showcase that allows artists to display their artwork in there without having to be there, so they can refer back to the website. Top left is a project that we're currently working on, and the bottom left and also in the middle bottom row is another example of how it can be done, that you can have almost some 3D sculpture and artwork displayed in there. And the bottom right is another example of a digital display unit.
Sorry, I'm just going to interject here, because this morning I went for a hospital appointment at Central Middlesex, and they had this really cool thing where they had poems in the waiting room. I don't know if other people have come across this, but it was poems on the wall whilst you waited to see the doctor, and you could read the poems, and they were from all sorts of different languages, and they were translated into English. And I thought that was really cool. So maybe one of the things we could potentially think about is hosting some like poems from the community in these art spaces, if that's what the community decides. But that's just an additional idea. I will go on.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's the beauty about this, that it's open to a partnership with so many different stakeholders, our local university, colleges, schools, local arts groups, absolutely. So yeah, there's that opportunity to really display the work of local talent.
Yeah. And then we have the public realm stuff. So I know that you can't really present on these suggested proposals. Is David in this meeting?
I don't think David is, but essentially the next two slides is the other project that's part of the High Street Fund. And the public realm essentially really seeks to improve the footway, the cycle routes, and add an element of greenery as well. And as you can see from the image on the top left, there's that link back to the creative placemakers. There's that same image from that wayfinding in Stanmore. But essentially the images as you go across, it's really highlighting to a series of proposed interventions, which is up for consultation, such as improving the crossing, giving more power back to pedestrians, adding more cycle parking. Again, you can see the that identity through the colourful lamp columns, colourful crossing. So again, it's really bringing it all together, but really focusing on the footway and the carriageway, and really highlighting potential locations for where that intervention can be.
Yeah, so I think the designs for the public realm stuff is basically trying to make a space for pedestrians, making it easier to cross the road, making it nicer, a place for people to park their bikes, and make North Holt Road look more prettier visually, which is what we've heard in the community meetings that we've had and through the consultations that we've done previously. The next slide is on also the same type of things. Do you want to walk us through this quickly, Shazad?
So again, it's just continuing along that strip of Norfolk Road, and again, it's got more interventions in regards to the core, in the sense of the cycling, improving the walking routes for pedestrians, and also adding the element of greenery into it as well, along with the link back to the creative placemaking strand as well.
But remember, everyone, that these are just proposals at the moment, right? So that's why we're having a consultation on all of this, to try and get the views of the community. So the more people that respond to the consultation, the better, because then we'll understand exactly what the community wants, which is what we're going to go on to talk about now. So that's everything in the High Street Fund, I believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly take some questions. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'm going to quickly take some questions if we have any. I know Susan wrote in the chat, how can you have room for cycle routes on North Holt Road? That's a very good question, Susan, and it's going to be very hard for us to achieve this, but we're hoping that we can create a balanced scheme where we can have space for pedestrians, space for cyclists, and space for motorists. Now, if you've looked at any of the other proposals put forward by Harrow Council, by the councillors at Harrow, in terms of making sure that we have updated cycle routes, one of those routes goes through South Harrow, which will have a consultation out separately. I think that's on the street space related stuff. So you can respond to that specifically, but we will talk about cycling and all of that other stuff in future community meetings. I see, Martin, you have your hand up in regards to this. Do you want to come in and ask your question?
Yeah, thanks very much, Peymana. I mean, previously, when I was at one of these meetings, it had been raised about having more trees along North Holt Road, and as well as improving air quality, just visually, and improving the feel, because certainly I think the widening of the pavements was positive. Like, it was an improvement, but we did lose a number of mature trees, I think, as part of that process. So I think that would be really welcome to see, and I hope that doesn't get lost amongst the other good suggestions. I must say, I think overall I'm really impressed. I think there's so many good ideas there. If it all comes off, it'll be extremely positive.
Thank you so much, Martin. A lot of hard work has gone in. Councillors have been suggesting things all the time into these proposals, and the most important thing is that the community needs to feed back to tell us what you guys think of these proposals. So we'll talk a little bit more about when the consultation comes out. But in regards to the trees, I'm not a tree expert, but every time I've asked or inquired with the council in regards to why trees have been taken down, they've told me that they're unhealthy trees, or someone has complained about it. What I'll do is I'll make sure that when we go back to speaking to council officers, that specific point is not lost, in terms of making sure that we have more trees planted, and making sure that we have more greenery. Ashok has his hand up, and Shazad, I'll come back to you if you want to answer some of that question. Ashok? Unmute, you're on mute, you're on mute. Just waiting for you to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
Done it now. Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Peymana. One thing which I'm missing is anything that has not been shown yet, how things will improve for the people who are not as mobile and as fast as they used to be, people which are I'm talking about, I'm 83, I'm 82 now. So people like me and other older people, who've got cycle lanes and lovely designs and everything else. But the number of times I've been run over by people who are not actually going to the cycle lane, they're using the pedestrians, the pavement, they're taking over not just cycles, but also the new motorbikes. So it's the electric scooters. And I've not seen anything which is going to improve the life of the people, older people, and even some other people. Like, for example, there are no public toilets in the whole of South Harrow. Okay. The only one which is available is in South Harrow station, but then you have to go and pay some money to get in there. And it's not very well publicized either. So when you are doing anything feasibility survey on improving the life of people in South Harrow, would you also consider those who are not able to sort of look into the bright lights and bright colors, but want to get some positive area, a positive improvement in their locality and in their own lives?
Yes, thank you so much. That's a very important point that you've made in terms of making sure that we think about our elderly citizens in South Harrow, and making sure that we, through this consultation process, what we want to do. So I would encourage you to feed that back in through the consultation, and I will make sure that I take that away and speak to those who are designing and looking at the public realm aspect of this. But one thing I can say is that what we've asked our officers to do at the council is do more enforcement to make sure that people aren't breaking the rules, like you know, running people over in the pavement or that kind of thing. So we're going to try our best to have more enforcement. And in terms of getting about, one of the things that we've looked at is where we can place benches. So, you know, you can sit down and actually enjoy what you see visibly along North Holt Road as well, but also mitigate some of the antisocial behavior. So there's a balancing act that we have to do. And you're very right, Ashok, we need to consider our elderly citizens. And so we'll definitely take that back. I'm not an expert in terms of how we, what the specific mitigating things are that we can look at. But what I do know is that we're looking at, for example, bringing, this is an idea, it's not something that's confirmed, but 20-mile-per-hour zones across the borough to make sure that our motorists slow down so that pedestrians can walk freer and freely in the streets. In regards to the public toilets, this isn't something that has come across to us in consultation, so I'm glad that you've raised it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it back to officers and see what the thought is in regard how we can look at this a bit better. In regards to the one at South Harrow Tube Station, that actually isn't run by us, it's run by TfL, so that's why we don't have any say over that, unfortunately. The other issue in regards to the public toilets is space. Where potentially would we place them? Where would it go? Because the area is already quite crowded. But we'll definitely look at it, and we're definitely not forgetting our elderly citizens. So thank you so much for raising that, and I really appreciate it. Shahzad, is there anything else that you wanted to add that I might have forgotten?
So just going back to Martin's earlier question. So Martin, on those two public realm slides, there's a key of what trees are proposed to be retained, and also where new trees are proposed to be planted as well. So that's captured in the sense of that greening outcome as part of the public realm strand. In regards to Ashok's question, in regards to movement and accessibility, absolutely, the scheme's very much being designed from the public highway point of view with that in mind. Hence the improvements targeted to the footway, widen the footway where we can, and raising the level of on-street parking so it's all one flat continuous space. When cars aren't parked there, we've got more space for pedestrians. So all of these types of measures, in addition to the stuff that Councillor Assad has mentioned in regards to the 20-mile-per-hour zone, in addition to a number of Copenhagen type of crossings. So where the area is more raised, there's almost one continual footway element. So it's really giving power back to pedestrians, absolutely.
Great, and I think we have one more question in the chat from Carmel, who says, will the decorative lighting be available throughout the year, not just at Christmas? Now, this is a really, really good question, because the Christmas lights, I wish we could stick them on all the time, but unfortunately the cost associated with that is quite high, and so it might not be possible. But in regards to the lighting schemes that are proposed in the High Street Fund project, Shehzad, do we know whether that will be available throughout the year?
It's definitely an option. I think probably for half of the year, in the sense of the winter months. I think in the summer months, it's probably we get less impact. But in terms of that type of real impact that we after, that visual impact, absolutely for at least 6 months. If that's what the community after, absolutely that's something that we can explore.
Okay, so what I would suggest then, Carmel, is making sure that you feed that back to us in the consultation, and making sure that it's a big part of what you feed back in the consultation. So now I'm gonna, there's no more questions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, oh, Graham Henson has his hand up. Graham, do you wanna come in and then I'll go on?
Thank you, Peymana. Just a few random points really. We started this off a few years ago to reclaim sort of South Harrow and get some pride back into the area, and with our funding streams as they were, a lot of this relies on bidding into external funding as it becomes available. That's why we wanted to have an outline plan of what we wanted to do, then as funding comes in we can bid into it, which we've done in other locations across Harrow, which is quite useful. With the trees, they don't have the normal lifespan of a tree, which we would get in a park. You know, the air quality around the roads is killing the trees off. They're giving a shorter lifespan for them, and some of them aren't actually suitable for a main road. So some of them will be removed and replace them with others. So it's not reducing the number of trees. It's actually, I think there's more going in. But we've got these street trading policies we had in place, although they're slightly suspended at the moment due to COVID, to reduce a lot of the street clutter. And on the plans that were shown on just now, a lot of the street furniture, that sort of obstructions we used to call it, are being removed to make it a more open space that people can use. So the pedestrians have got room to move around. And we've seen that where we've widened the pavements outside the station, where it's more accommodating. You know, as it goes forwards. I think there's some really good things in there. But going back to Peymana's point earlier on, when we started these groups off, it's nearly 2 years ago now. You know, the first thing they wanted was the festive lights, and yes, when the street poles are upgraded, we can put remote control access into them so they can use the festive lights later in the year. That was a priority. Removing street clutter was another one which has been dealt with. But now this is looking about pedestrian access, and the Copenhagen crossings is so you haven't got the drop curb for access. You can just like a level for the pedestrian and a hump for the cars, which actually works to slow traffic down. So it's all very beneficial, and I think it's there's some really good stuff there. But I was just sort of coming back to answer some of the questions. We used to have a portable toilet, I think they used to call it, near the library. But it was removed because it was never used, and it went into disrepair in the end of it all. And it wasn't really a good location for it. But maybe it's something we could look at going forward.
Thank you very much, Graham. That's definitely showing my age because I didn't know that. But thank you for providing that piece of history. That was very, very needed. So last but not least, the consultation. Oh, let me just click that. Yeah, so this is what will be happening. The consultation will be open until the 16th of May. And it will be in regards to the mural designs that we saw earlier. It will be in regards to all the improvements, all the suggested proposals that Shehzad walked us through in terms of, you know, lighting, lamp columns, putting in bicycle places for you to put your bike, Copenhagen crossings, the lighting scheme. So all of that stuff, as well as added murals, like more murals. So all of the things that we've walked through today will be in the consultation. And this is all being led by us as a community group. All these things have come out from these community groups, right? From these meetings that we've had here. So none of these ideas are things that we've plucked out of the air that we've just randomly come up with. It's actually through the community that we've come up with these themes and these ideas, and then we've allowed officers to go away and come up with these kinds of concrete proposals that can actually have that funding behind it, and for us to be bidding with that funding. So all the feedback will be looked at through the consultation, and we'll make sure that where the proposals have been not supported by residents or businesses, we'll look at it again. So like I said, none of this is confirmed. This is all proposals, suggested things that we could potentially do. So if there's something in these ideas that you don't particularly like, please feed that back through the consultation and let us know, and set out your reasons why. And if you have other ideas, put that in too. All of this will be available online. So you can complete the consultation online on the southharrowproposals.commonplace.is, or if you need a hard copy, you can call the number on the screen there to get a hard copy. Now the consultation is open until the 16th of May, and then after that we will address what the views are from the community through this consultation. The more people that respond to it, the better, because then we'll understand wider views. So I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes on the screen. And then what we'll do after we have feedback from the consultation, so after the 16th of May, once officers are able to analyze the data that's come back, the types of comments, the votes on the designs, all of that stuff, we will come back to this community group and feed that data back to you guys to say what the designs, which designs have been voted on, which designs have been liked the most, what hasn't been liked the most, what we're going to do about it, or what we think how we're going to move forward in terms of that mural on the TfL bridge, the wall and the bridge. And then we'll also field feedback on the high street improvements. So the proposals put in this consultation for those things that we just walked through that Shehzad talked us through. We'll also feedback the data on that, and which ideas people like the most, which ideas people like the least, and what we think we're going to change and how we're going to change it and go forward. So I hope that has been useful in terms of letting people know. I think there's some things in the chat that people have written, and I think some people have their hand up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing. Is it okay for me to stop sharing this screen now? I just need some nods.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great, I'm going to stop sharing the screen so I can see everyone a little bit better. Jonathan, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thanks. Interesting ideas there. I mean, obviously the number of people we had at that first meeting in the Baptist church was it was a full house, wasn't it? And tonight's number, I think we peaked at 30, we're down to 25 now, which quite a number, obviously, council officials. So when people are voting on this, do we have a sort of minimum threshold that we're looking to get, people like the other, scheme, the bridge mural number 2, are we looking for a number of, 100 residents to like it as a minimum threshold? Or are we just sort of saying 2 people like that one and no one else like the others?
We're hoping that we can get a wide spread of individuals responding to the consultation and voting on it. But obviously, if we don't get enough votes, for example, like you said, if we only get 2 people voting for a mural that they like, we would never go ahead with that. That's not something that we would do. So we need a majority of people to actually come back. I believe that there is an official quota or amount that councils are allowed to move ahead with. Shehzad, I don't know that number, do you?
I think on a project like this, we could just go for the maximum amount, but I completely agree with the principle in the sense of, you know, if it's something really low, then obviously we haven't done an effective job in the sense of pushing it out. And we've got a strategy behind this in the sense of continued comms. There's leaflets going through the doors, there's leaflets left at key places, and we'll continue to push in terms of social media, so on and so forth. And I think a fair, sensible approach is assuming we get back a decent amount, is whatever the winning scheme is.
Yeah, so we will, so that's why we need your help. So whilst the council will be doing its job in terms of pushing out the consultation on social media, online, through groups, Facebook groups, but through leaflets through the door, as Shazad pointed out, all of those things we'll be doing. But we need your help to make sure that you get your family and friends who live in South Harrow to actually fill the consultation out and to give us their views. What we'll do is we'll feed back the numbers back to this group the next time, once we have the results from the consultation, and then we'll decide as a community how we move forward, because what we don't want to do is implement things that the community is not happy with. That's definitely not the agenda or the aim of this group or anything that the councillors want. So I hope that answers your question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to some other questions in the chat because we're running out of time. I've gone over time. So Harpreet, you put a question in regards to new planters along North Holt Road to add some much needed natural elements, some colour, flowers and biodiversity. Yes, exactly. So that was one of the first things that came out of our community meeting 2 and a bit years ago now, that people wanted planters. The issue was how were those planters going to be looked after and managed? And one of the ideas that came out was asking the businesses, the local businesses, to help us take care of those planters, because as you know, the funds from the council are reducing, and so it's very hard. But that's definitely something that we're looking at. Susan, you put in regards to a lot of shops have stalls on the pavements. What are the rules about this? Are you allowing the status quo? So in regards to this, we've had lots of enforcement officers going out on the street, making sure that the shops who have their stalls out on the pavement are adhering to the guidelines. I think the guideline is a certain amount of meters. So what enforcement officers will be doing is checking and making sure that the stalls along the high street are by those guidelines and standards, and therefore meet the threshold for the law. If you see or you think that there's a shop that's not abiding by the rules, then please do email your councillors and we will look into it. So what's the definition of South Harrow? Like I said at the start, Roxeth, Roxbourne, Harrow on the Hill. Those are the 3 wards that encompass South Harrow, just because of the geographical location of that. So that is what we mean by South Harrow in regards to the consultation. But thank you very much to everyone. I think I've answered everyone's questions in the chat. Jonathan, you have your hand up. Sorry, is there another question you had?
Yeah, no, it's just another point, sorry, very quickly to make. I don't know if it was the right point or earlier on, and I don't know if anything's changed, but obviously one of the things that's happened since we last had our meeting is the council planning decision on the 12th of January to agree to a development that will close HomeSense, Dunelm and Sports Direct and build 191 flats. I mean, that's quite a major blow, and it's going down like a lead balloon with local residents and things. And I just wondered, you know, what's, you know, much as all the pretty paint and all the nice ideas that we've talked about today, but that's a major blow to jobs and to the impact of hospitals and doctors and all those kind of things. Not to mention, you know, if they are good shops in the borough and in this locality. So what's your message for the residents of South Harrow? And the fact that, you know, the developer apparently gave the council £2 million before it was approved. So is any of that £2 million going to be reinvested in our community?
So I don't think that I'm very qualified to answer this question, but what I will say to you is that the South Harrow councillors didn't have a hand in this decision. Graham is on this call, and so I'm going to refer to Graham to give you a proper and full answer. The point of this meeting was to talk about the murals and the High Street Fund and the project, not to talk about planning decisions and other situations that have happened in planning. But what I'll do is I'll allow Graham to answer this question because we have gone over time. But in our next community meeting, we can come back and have further discussions in regards to what it is exactly exactly that residents want to see. Now, I understand the closure of businesses, especially the businesses that provide livelihoods to people in the constituency, is a real blow, and it's very difficult for us to balance that. But one of the key things that we have to remember is that we don't have enough housing to allocate people for housing across the borough, and so we have to abide by planning regulations and laws. So that's what I would say in regards to that. But I'm going to allow Graham, as the leader of the council, to take that as a more full answer for you. Graham?
Yes, Peymana, you've got it exactly right. The application was submitted by the landowner, and all the council can do is assess against the current planning legislation and the borough plan and also the London plan, and that's what it did do. So it had no reason to refuse it on the ground on those any grounds. I know it's a loss of sort of shopping space as such, but I think we should be more concerned around the legislation that changed this month, whereby shops can be converted into houses or flats under permitted development, which means they won't need planning permission. So the control of local authorities is getting weakened all the time, and that is becoming quite a challenge. With regard to getting money, they don't. These for every planning application that goes in, there's a community infrastructure levy that is placed on the property. Some goes into central government, some goes into the GLA, and some remains in Harrow. And we've been using the remainder part in Harrow based on ward-based activities, and that's what paid for the festive lights the other year. We paid for it out of the community infrastructure levy funding.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, neighbourhood.
Yeah, neighbourhoods. Thank you so much for that answer, Graham. Now I understand that we can't have a full discussion about this because we've kind of run out of time, and I want to let everyone go. But please, please, please watch out for the consultation online when it's live. Make sure that you get your family and friends to respond to the consultation, because it's really, really important that we get everyone's views on this as we move forward. This is a hugely exciting project that we want to work on in changing the face of what South Harrow looks like, and we want you guys to come along and help us do that. So with that, I thank each and every one of you for being with us tonight, and sorry that we went over time, 15 minutes. And if you need to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us again through the cash@harrow.gov.uk email address. Alternatively, you can contact each of your councillors directly on the Harrow Council website. All of our details are there for Roxeth, Roxbourne and Harrow on the Hill. The next time we will meet will be after the 16th of May, so that we can talk about the results of the consultation and how we're going to move forward in regards to which murals you guys have chosen and what kind of ideas and proposal you'd like the most or the least, and what we'll do about that. Thank you so much to Shehzad for being with us and for giving us his evening. Thank you so much to Sudesh for doing all the tech behind the scenes for us this evening. And thank you to each and every one of you for coming. And I wish you a nice rest of the evening and nice rest of the week. Bye, everyone.